I'd been sitting at the kids' table for the past hour, listening to my older sister Veronica detail her recent promotion to senior marketing manager. She was 36, 3 years older than me, and had always been the family success story. Her designer dress probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, and she made sure everyone knew it. "The corner office has such an amazing view," Veronica said, swirling her wine. "I can see the entire downtown skyline." "Of course you wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Emma?" I smiled and cut into my turkey. "It sounds lovely." "Emma's doing just fine," Aunt Carol offered weakly, though even she looked uncomfortable. "She has a stable job." "Answering phones," my younger brother Tyler interjected with a laugh. He was 28 and worked as a financial analyst. "I mean, it's honest work, I guess. Better than nothing." Mom set down her fork with that particular precision that meant she had something important to say. "Emma, sweetheart, we're just concerned. You're 33 years old. Most people your age have progressed further in their careers." "I understand," I said quietly. "Do you, though?" Dad leaned forward, his expression a mixture of disappointment and confusion. "You have a degree from Stanford, Emma." "Stanford. And you're working reception at some tech startup. Do you know how that looks to people when they ask about our children?" Veronica nodded sympathetically, though her eyes gleamed with something else entirely. "I tried to get you an interview at my company, remember? For an entry-level marketing position. But you said you were happy where you were." "I am happy," I confirmed. "Happy answering phones," Tyler muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Living in that tiny apartment in the Tenderloin. Driving a 10-year-old Honda Civic. Real American dream stuff." Grandma Patricia, who'd been mostly quiet, suddenly spoke up. "In my day, women didn't have the opportunities you girls have. Emma should be grateful she has any job at all, even if it's just a receptionist position." "She should be grateful?" My cousin Derek laughed from across the table. "Grandma, she went to Stanford. She should be running something by now, not greeting visitors." I'd heard variations of this conversation for the past 8 years. Every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday party. The disappointment in their voices had become background noise, like traffic or rain. They didn't understand, and I'd long ago stopped trying to explain. "The tech industry is so competitive," Mom continued. "Maybe you should consider pivoting to something more stable. Your father has connections at several established companies. Real companies with structure and advancement opportunities." "I appreciate that," I said. "But I'm content with my current position." "Content," Dad repeated as if tasting something bitter. "Your sister is thriving. Your brother is on track to make partner at his firm. And you're content answering phones." Veronica reached over and patted my hand in what she probably thought was a sisterly gesture. "Emma, I say this because I love you. You're wasting your potential. That company you work for. What's it called again? Tech Venture Solutions? Nobody's even heard of it. It's probably going to fail like 90% of startups do, and then where will you be?" "I'll figure it out," I assured her. "Will you?" Tyler challenged. "Because from where I'm sitting it looks like you've given up. You dress like you're still in college, you live in a neighborhood that's one step above a slum, and you're doing work that literally anyone with a high school diploma could do." Uncle Richard, who'd been listening silently, finally weighed in. "The boy has a point, Emma. You're at an age where you should be thinking about your future. Marriage, family, financial security. How are you supposed to attract a quality partner when you can barely support yourself?" "I support myself just fine," I said evenly. "Do you?" Mom's voice rose slightly. "Because last I checked, you were living paycheck to paycheck in a studio apartment. You never go on vacation, you never buy yourself anything nice, you're always making excuses about why you can't attend family events that require travel." "I attended Cousin Michelle's wedding in Napa," I pointed out. "You drove up for the day and drove back the same night," Veronica countered. "You didn't even stay for the reception dinner because you said you had to get back." "Get back to what, Emma?" "Your thrilling life answering phones." The thing was, they weren't entirely wrong about the surface facts. I did live in a modest apartment in the Tenderloin. I did drive an older car. I did dress simply and avoid expensive vacations. What they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was why. "I'm just worried about you," Mom said, her voice softening. "You're my daughter and I want to see you succeed. Is that so wrong?" "Of course not," I replied. "Then why won't you let us help you?" Dad insisted. I could make one phone call and get you interviews at 3 different companies. Real positions with real salaries and benefits. You could move out of that neighborhood, get a decent car, start living like someone with your education should be living. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. She's probably gotten so comfortable being mediocre that she's afraid of real responsibility, Tyler said. Some people are just like that. They peak in college and then coast for the rest of their lives. That's harsh, Aunt Carol murmured, though she didn't exactly disagree. Veronica leaned back in her chair, surveying me with what looked like genuine pity. Emma, I'm going to be honest with you because nobody else will. You're embarrassing the family. When people ask about my siblings, I love talking about Tyler and his success. But when they ask about you, I have to say you're finding yourself, or exploring options. Do you know how that makes me look? Like our family raised a quitter. I haven't quit anything, I said quietly. Haven't you? Dad's voice was firm. You had every advantage. The best education, a supportive family, no student debt because we paid for everything. And this is what you do with it. Answer phones at some no-name company that'll probably be bankrupt in 2 years. My phone buzzed again. And again. Someone's popular, Tyler said sarcastically. Probably spam calls. Although maybe that's good practice for her job. I pulled out my phone and glanced at the screen. 3 missed calls from the board chairman, 2 from our head of legal and 1 from our CFO. All marked urgent. See? This is what I mean, Mom said. You can't even put your phone away during Christmas dinner. Is that how they train you at that company? No work-life balance. I should take this, I said, starting to stand. Absolutely not, Dad commanded. We're having a family discussion. Whatever it is can wait. Probably someone calling about extending their car warranty, Tyler joked, and Derek laughed. My phone rang again. This time it was the chairman calling directly. Emma, sit down, Mom said firmly. This is disrespectful. We're trying to help you and you're prioritizing spam calls over your family. I looked at the screen, then at my family's expectant faces, all showing various degrees of disappointment and judgment. After 8 years of this, part of me wanted to just answer the phone and end the charade. But another part of me, the part that had sat at countless dinners just like this one, knew that some lessons needed to be learned the hard way. You're right, I said, declining the call. I apologize. What were you saying? Dad looked satisfied. We were saying that it's time for you to get serious about your career. This receptionist thing has gone on long enough. Your father and I have been discussing it, Mom added. We think you should move back home for a few months. Save some money, let us help you find a real job, get back on your feet properly. Move back home. I repeated. I'm 33. And clearly not capable of managing on your own, Veronica said. There's no shame in admitting you need help, Emma. We've all been there. You haven't, I pointed out. Because I took my career seriously from day one, she replied. I didn't waste 8 years pretending to be satisfied with an entry-level position that goes nowhere. My phone buzzed with a text. Then another. Then 3 more in rapid succession. For God's sake, Uncle Richard said. Turn that thing off. I glanced at the screen. The messages were from our head of security, our chief technology officer, and our lead investor. All were marked urgent. All were asking where I was and when I could get to the office. Emma, Dad's voice was sharp now. Put the phone away or leave the table. I think there might be an emergency at work, I said carefully. Tyler burst out laughing. An emergency at the reception desk? What, did someone spill coffee on the visitor log? Maybe the phone system went down, Derek suggested with a grin. Who else would know how to transfer calls? Veronica shook her head sadly. This is exactly the problem. You think you're so important at this little company. They've probably brainwashed you into believing you're essential. Emma, receptionists are replaceable. Anyone can do what you do. That's a bit harsh, Aunt Carol said weakly. Is it? Veronica challenged. She needs to hear the truth. She's wasting her life on a job that has no future, no prestige, no real value. And she's so deluded that she thinks missing Christmas dinner to answer phones is reasonable. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I recognized immediately. Our largest institutional investor calling on Christmas Day. I really should, I started. No, Mom said firmly. Whatever it is can wait until tomorrow. This family time is important, Emma. You need to get your priorities straight. Your mother's right, Dad agreed. Part of growing up is learning what matters. And right now what matters is this family and this conversation about your future. I looked around the table. Every face showed some variation of the same expression. Disappointment, concern, a kind of pitying judgment that had become so familiar over the years. They truly believed they were helping me. They genuinely thought I was a failure who needed saving. Fine, I said, silencing my phone completely. Let's talk about my future. Dad looked pleased. Now we're getting somewhere. First things first, how much notice do you need to give at this company? 2 weeks is standard, Tyler offered. Though for a receptionist they might not even need that much. I could get you an interview next week, Veronica said. It wouldn't be anything senior, obviously. You'd have to start near the bottom and work your way up. But at least it would be a real company with a real career path. What kind of salary are you making now? Uncle Richard asked. If you don't mind me asking. I named a figure. My official receptionist salary, which was modest but comfortable. The table erupted in sympathetic murmurs. Oh, Emma, Mom said. That's barely livable in San Francisco. I make almost 4 times that, Tyler said. And I'm younger than you. Money isn't everything, Aunt Carol tried. It is when you're in your 30s with no savings and no prospects, Dad countered. Emma, this is serious. At your salary, how are you supposed to ever buy a home? Save for retirement? Have any kind of financial security? Some people are just content with simpler lives, Grandma Patricia offered. Not everyone needs to be ambitious. She went to Stanford, Veronica repeated as if this explained everything. She shouldn't be content with a simple life. She should want more. My silenced phone was lighting up continuously now. I could see the notifications piling up. Missed calls, urgent texts, email alerts marked high priority. The board chairman had called 6 times. Our chief legal counsel had sent 3 texts marked critical. Our head of investor relations had emailed with the subject line. Media inquiry. Response needed immediately. What do you think, Emma? Mom asked. Will you at least consider moving back home temporarily? Let us help you find something better. I looked at my phone one more time. A new message had just come through from the board chairman. Emma, we have a situation. The merger announcement leaked. Press is calling. We need your approval on the public statement before markets open Monday. Where are you? I think, I said slowly, that I should probably answer my phone. Absolutely not, Dad said. We're not finished here. This is exactly the problem, Veronica added. You let this job control your life. They've probably convinced you that you're irreplaceable, that they can't function without you for even a few hours. It's manipulative, Emma. That's how these small companies operate. They exploit people's need to feel important. My phone started ringing again. This time it was a number with a Washington, D.C. area code, probably the SEC wanting to discuss the merger announcement before their official statement. Tyler glanced at my screen and laughed. Who do you know in D.C.? Did you apply for a federal receptionist position? Maybe she put the wrong number on her resume, Derek suggested. They're calling to tell her she didn't get the job. Answer it, Veronica said suddenly. Go ahead, Emma. Show us all how important your little receptionist job is. Maybe it'll help you see how ridiculous you're being. Everyone was looking at me now, waiting. The phone continued to ring. Veronica, Mom said warningly. Don't embarrass your sister. I'm not trying to embarrass her, Veronica replied. I'm trying to help her see reality. Emma, answer the phone. Let us hear what kind of emergency requires the receptionist on Christmas Day. I looked at the screen, then at my family's faces. After 8 years of careful silence, of letting them believe what they wanted to believe, part of me was tired. But another part of me, the part that had learned early that some people would never understand, knew that this moment would teach them something no amount of explanation could. All right, I said quietly and answered the call. Emma. The chairman's voice was loud enough that the people nearest me could hear it. Thank God. Where have you been? We have a situation. I'm at Christmas dinner with my family, I said calmly. What's happening? The merger leaked to the press. Bloomberg is running a story in the morning. We need your approval on the public statement before it goes out, and we need your signature on the revised disclosure documents. The SEC is asking questions and our investors are calling every 5 minutes. Can you get to the office? Tyler was grinning, clearly expecting this to be some minor administrative crisis that would prove his point about my replaceable nature. What time do you need me there? I asked. As soon as possible. The board is convening an emergency meeting via video conference in 2 hours. We need you to chair it. Veronica's smile faltered slightly. Hold on, I said, putting the phone on mute. I need to take this call in private. It might be a few minutes. Of course it will be, Dad said wearily. Go ahead. We'll be here when you're done wasting time on whatever crisis they think they have. I walked into the other room and unmuted the phone. Peter, I'm with family. Can we handle this remotely? Emma, this is an $8.2 billion merger. The biggest in our company's history. We need you present either physically or virtually. The board wants to see their CEO. I understand. Set up the video conference for 2 hours from now. I'll join from here. Send me the statement and disclosure documents. I'll review and sign them within the hour. You're sure? Your family won't mind. I glanced back toward the dining room where I could hear Tyler saying something that made everyone laugh. They'll understand. Send everything to my secure email. Already done. Emma, I'm sorry about this timing. It's part of the job. I'll see you on the call in 2 hours. I ended the call and checked my other messages quickly. The SEC inquiry was routine. They just wanted confirmation of the timeline. Our lead investor was concerned about the leak but confident in the merger's prospects. Our head of legal had drafted 3 versions of the public statement for my review. I spent 15 minutes in the guest bedroom, reviewing documents on my phone, approving statements and sending guidance to the legal team. Then I sent a text to my chief of staff. Clear my schedule for the next 6 hours. Board meeting in 2 hours, then calls with major investors. I'll be available but remote. When I returned to the dining room, dessert had been served. Everyone looked at me with barely concealed annoyance. All sorted? Mom asked, her tone suggesting it better be. Not quite, I admitted. I'm going to need to step away for a board meeting in about 90 minutes. The table went silent. A board meeting, Tyler repeated slowly. On Christmas Day. Unfortunately, yes. Emma, Dad said carefully, what exactly is your position at this company? I'd avoided this conversation for 8 years. 8 years of sitting at the kids' table, of listening to career advice from my younger brother, of being pitted and patronized and dismissed. Part of me wanted to just say it plainly and watch their faces change. But I'd learned that sometimes the lesson needs to unfold naturally. I work at Tech Venture Solutions, I said simply. As a receptionist, Veronica added, though her voice had lost some of its certainty. I do answer phones sometimes, I confirmed. But you said there's a board meeting, Uncle Richard interjected. Receptionists don't attend board meetings. Perhaps she takes minutes, Grandma Patricia suggested. That would make sense. My phone buzzed with a new email from our PR team. Madam Sue, Bloomberg's draft article for your review before publication. They want to include a quote from you about the merger's impact on the industry. I scanned it quickly and sent back notes, then looked up to find everyone staring at me. Who was that? Mom asked. PR team. They need approval on a press statement. Why would they need your approval? Tyler's face had gone slightly pale. Because it's my responsibility. Veronica's hand had started to shake slightly, rattling her wine glass against the table. Emma, what exactly do you do at this company? I looked at her for a long moment. 8 years of dismissal, of being treated like the family failure, of patient explanations that went nowhere. And now, finally, the moment where reality catches up. I founded it, I said simply. 11 years ago, right after Stanford. We've grown to about 8,000 employees. The merger Peter mentioned, that's us being acquired by Tech Global Corporation for $8.2 billion. The silence was absolute. Your dad couldn't seem to finish the sentence. I confirmed. And primary shareholder. I own about 40% of the company, which means the merger will net me roughly $3.3 billion, give or take, depending on stock performance and earn-out conditions. Tyler's fork clattered to his plate. But you said you were a receptionist, Mom whispered. I said I answer phones sometimes. Which is true. I also meet with investors, make strategic decisions, approve billion-dollar deals, testify before Congress about tech policy and chair board meetings. The reception work is just something I do occasionally when I'm in the office, because I think it's important to stay connected to every level of the business. Veronica's face had gone from red to white to red again. You've been lying to us for 8 years? I've never lied, I said calmly. You've asked me what I do and I've told you I work at Tech Venture Solutions. You've asked if I answer phones and I've said yes. Every word I've said has been true. You just made assumptions about what those truths meant. But your apartment, Aunt Carol stammered. Your car. The way you dress. I like my apartment. It's in a vibrant neighborhood with character. My car runs perfectly fine. Why would I replace it? And I dress for comfort, not to impress people. Just because I have money doesn't mean I need to spend it on things that don't matter to me. $3 billion, Uncle Richard said faintly. Approximately. The exact figure depends on various factors. My financial advisors can explain it better than I can. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? 8 years ago when we were just starting out, would you have taken me seriously if I said I was building a company? You wanted me to get a stable job at an established firm. You wanted me to follow a traditional path. Instead, I took a risk on something I believed in. But even after you were successful, Mom protested. After the company grew. You could have told us then. I tried, I reminded her gently. 3 years ago at Tyler's graduation party, I mentioned we'd just secured Series C funding. Do you remember what you said? Mom's face showed that she did. You said it was nice that I had hobbies outside of work. You thought I was talking about crowdfunding or something. You didn't take it seriously. Veronica had tears in her eyes now, though I couldn't tell if they were from anger or humiliation. You let us treat you like a failure. All these years, every family dinner, every holiday, listening to us give you career advice and pity you. You just sat there and took it. You needed to believe what you believed, I said. And I didn't need you to know the truth. My company's success wasn't dependent on family validation. But we're your family, Mom said, her voice breaking. You are. And I love you. But you also spent 8 years telling me I was wasting my life, that I was an embarrassment, that I needed to accept my mediocrity. You never once asked me if I was happy. You never considered that maybe I knew what I was doing. Tyler was staring at his plate. Derek had gone completely silent. Grandma Patricia looked like she might faint. My phone buzzed again. 45 minutes until the board call, my chief of staff reminded me. I need to prepare for this meeting, I said, standing. It's going to run several hours. I'll probably miss the rest of dinner. Emma, wait, Dad said. We need to talk about this. We've talked about it for 8 years, I pointed out. You've made your opinions very clear. Now you know the full story. I'm not sure what else there is to discuss. But the things we said, Mom whispered. All those things we said about you being a failure, about wasting your life, were based on the information you had, I finished. Information you chose to believe without ever really asking me for the truth. You could have told us, Veronica repeated. But there was no conviction in her voice anymore. I could have. But would it have changed anything? Would you have suddenly believed that the daughter you'd decided was a disappointment was actually building something significant? Or would you have found new reasons to criticize my choices? The question hung in the air unanswered. The board meeting, I said, checking my phone. I really do need to prepare. I walked back to the guest bedroom and closed the door. Over the next 3 hours, I chaired an emergency board meeting, approved a public statement that would move markets when it was released, spoke with our top 5 investors and gave quotes to 3 different financial journalists who were writing about the merger. When I finally emerged, most of the family had left. Only my parents remained, sitting in the living room with cold coffee and shell-shocked expressions. How long have you known? Mom asked. About the merger? We've been in negotiations for 6 months. It was announced to the board 3 weeks ago, pending regulatory approval and final due diligence. $3 billion, Dad said again as if he still couldn't process it. Roughly. After taxes and various other factors, probably closer to $2 billion in actual liquid wealth. The rest is in retained stock and earnouts tied to performance metrics. And you live in a studio apartment in the Tenderloin. I live in a neighborhood I like, in an apartment that suits my needs. I don't need a mansion, Dad. I never did. Mom was crying now, really crying. All those times we told you to get your life together. All those conversations about how you were wasting your potential. You were worried about me. I understand that. No, you don't, she said. We were ashamed of you. We thought you'd failed. And you were building an empire while we were pitying you. I was building something I believed in, I corrected. The empire part was incidental. Dad stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. Your sister tried to get you a job. An entry-level marketing position. While you were running a billion-dollar company. I remember. I declined politely. We thought you were being stubborn and prideful. That you couldn't accept help because you were too proud to admit you needed it. I didn't need it. But thank you for offering. The silence stretched out. On my phone, I could see the preliminary market reactions to the merger announcement. Our stock was up 18% in after-hours trading. The financial press was calling it one of the biggest tech acquisitions of the year. My chief of staff had sent me a summary of the coverage. Mostly positive, with some concerns about regulatory scrutiny but overall optimism about the strategic fit. What happens now? Mom asked finally. Now. The merger closes in about 4 months, assuming regulatory approval. I'll stay on as CEO during the transition period, then probably take some time off to figure out what I want to do next. I meant with us. With the family. I looked at my parents. These two people who'd raised me, supported me through college, and then spent 8 years fundamentally misunderstanding me. I didn't feel angry exactly. Just tired. That depends on you, I said. I'm still the same person I was yesterday. I still live in the same apartment, drive the same car, do the same work. The only thing that's changed is your perception of it. But we treated you terribly, Mom protested. You treated me according to what you believed was true. I don't hold that against you. You should, Dad said, turning back from the window. We should have asked more questions. Should have been more curious about your life instead of just judging it. Yes, I agreed. You should have. The honesty seemed to hit him harder than any anger could have. Can we start over? Mom asked. Can we try to understand now? Maybe, I said. But not tonight. I need to get back to the office for some follow-up calls with our Asian investors. They're in a different time zone. And you need time to process this. Will you come to New Year's dinner? She asked tentatively. I'll think about it. We could meet for lunch sometime, Dad offered. Just us. No big family gathering. You could tell us about your company. About what you've built. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. I gathered my things and headed for the door. As I was putting on my coat, I heard Veronica's voice from the kitchen, where she'd apparently been hiding this whole time. Emma, she started then stopped. I waited. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Yes, I do. I was cruel to you. For years I was cruel. And you just took it. Why? I thought about this for a moment. Because you needed to feel superior and I didn't need you to know the truth. It cost me nothing to let you believe what you wanted to believe. But it must have hurt. All those things we said. Did it hurt? I considered. Sometimes. But I was busy building something real. Your opinions, while hurtful, weren't relevant to that work. Veronica flinched. That's harsh. It's honest. You've spent 8 years being harsh to me. I'm just being honest with you. Can I see it? Your company. Maybe someday. When you're actually interested in what I've built, not just impressed by what it's worth. I left without saying goodbye to anyone else. As I drove back to my studio apartment in my 10-year-old Honda Civic, my phone continued buzzing with messages from investors, journalists, and board members. The merger was real now, public, impossible to ignore. The financial world was taking notice of what we'd built. But as I unlocked my apartment door and sat down at my modest desk to continue working, I realized that the only thing that had really changed was other people's perception. The work was the same. The mission was the same. And I was still the same person I'd been at that Christmas dinner. Just one that my family was finally starting to see clearly. My phone buzzed one more time. It was a text from Tyler. I'm sorry. For everything. I was wrong about you. I read it twice then typed back. I know. Thank you for saying it. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. But it was a start.